Welcome in, folks, to another great episode of I've Got a Theory. I'm your host, Henish and I'm joined by Katie. Katie, I missed your last name. Katie, what's your last name? Kirk, right?
Yeah,
Katie Kirk, who's a financial advisor here in San Diego. Excited to have you on the show. Welcome on.
thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you mentioned that your theory kind of stems from a book that you just reread, and it's worth rereading a few times. Tell
Yeah.
me the name of the book. Tell me your theory, and let's start talking.
So the name of the book is You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. It's written by Dr. Bangan Jelic. I forgive me if the pronunciation is not correct, but it is definitely worth the read. And everything that I have researched after reading this book, it's kind of standing still that this is the way it is. Water is life.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me more. Why did you read this book, and what impact has it had on you?
So I am in the middle of opening up a water store myself, and doing just reverse osmosis and alkaline water. And I just wanted to learn a little bit more about it because obviously, there's different studies, there's different benefits for alkaline water and just um, having water that's not of poor quality. And so I saw this book and I was like, that's really interesting because I know the days that I don't drink enough water, I'm feeling kind of crappy, I'm low energy, my mood might be all over the place. And so I was like, I just want to give this book a read. So I did. And as I was reading it, I was just noticing so many different things of constant problems that people have. And he would just say the problem that people have, and he would explain scientifically what goes on in the body and how it kind of reverses once you start hydrating again.
Yeah,
And it's amazing. So that's why I started reading it, and I love it.
that's interesting. Katie, do you have any kids?
I don't.
I've got kids, and I always hammer into them the rules of life. And I always say that the number one rule of life is drink a lot of water, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I say this, and I agree with you. I think water is super important. And as kids, they'll just forget. They just won't drink. They won't even think about it. And so my kid will be at school. We'll give him a full water bottle of water. And he'll come home and it's still full. I'm like, did you drink anything in the last 7 to 8 hours? Like, nope. And I didn't pee. And he'll like brag about it. I'm like, that's not great. Like you got to drink water and you got to
Yeah.
pee. That's how your system cleans out at the minimum, but that's how your cells survive too. So how do you get people to understand that they have to drink? Because even people I know be like, oh, I've got a headache, it's probably because I haven't drank any water today. I'm like, why do you think you're so busy that you can't drink water?
Right, right. And I don't think it's necessarily busy. I think it just like it doesn't have a flavor, right? And if you also don't know the health benefits of it, I think that's just something where it's like you're in bliss, right? Like you don't have this knowledge. And once you read this book, once you start doing your own education, it's kind of ever looming. You're like, oh man, I haven't, I know I've only had a glass. And even then it's good for some people, but like for you, it's like, I'm really behind. I feel it in my body. You become more aware. And I think at that point, once you have that level of knowledge, then you're going to start drinking a little bit more.
How
or
do you
how
how do you create that awareness in your system? Short of reading this book, is there some tactics or tips that you could provide that say, hey, this is my rule of thumb for water, drink X amount, or I feel this?
Yeah. So right after I first got into starting the store and reading this book, I got a gallon of water. I saw this really cool idea online. I'm not sure where it was, but so you get a gallon of water and you just use a permanent marker and you make little pinpoints on the day of like, okay, at noon you should be around this. So if at noon around lunchtime you're not, you get to that point and then you just keep trying. So by the end of the day, you're done with a gallon. No matter if you have the feeling of thirsty or not, you do it because that's the goal that you set for yourself.
Yeah,
So you do that a couple of times and you're like, wow, I realized how much water I wasn't drinking because now how much I am. And
right.
you are using the restroom more, but at the same time, you're feeling more aware, you're feeling more awake, you're feeling more just better energy overall. And so I feel like after I did that a couple of times and then I stopped and I went back to just normal glasses or bottles of water, I realized, I'm not drinking as much because I don't have a very specific goal. Even then, even after reading the book and knowing. Um, so I mean, I think that's where I started, and now I have this glass that I always have at home, and I fill it up, And I have an idea by the end of the day, I've drinking maybe about 10 or so of them. And if I don't, I kind of get there before I go to bed. But it's, 8 is a rule of thumb. But if you're obviously very busy, or if you drink other things that dehydrate you, like teas or coffee, you do need to drink more in order to balance it out. So
Well,
I feel
equitable access to water is really a big problem worldwide, right? Even in even in the United States, the big thing that hit the headlines a few years ago was the Flint, Michigan water crisis, right? And you hear of other places. Just coincidentally, I saw that we were recording this podcast, so I'm excited to talk to you about it because the two media that I'm consuming right now, a book and a TV show. The book is Dune, which is a movie's coming out next month, and
okay.
in the movie Dune, or in the book Dune, basically it's sci-fi, and these people had to move to a planet where water is extremely scarce, and they talk about all the different measures they do to preserve it, keep it, and cherish it, and how important it is. And then
Right.
the other one that I'm consuming is a TV show called Goliath, and it's by Billy Bob Thornton. It's in 4 seasons, but in season 3 is what I'm watching, and it's on like Amazon Prime or something like that. And in it, he's a lawyer who fights these kind of Central California farmers that are like almond farmers and stuff like this, that are billionaires that have been diverting public water for farm usage, and as a result, the entire county's residents have no water, period. Like no drinking water, no tap water, no nothing. No water comes through the pipes anymore because they've been diverted for plumbing. So it just kind of, it was such a serendipitous type coincidence that we're talking about water. The two things, the book and the TV show that I've been watching a little bit, are all about water and water conservation. Yet we still don't treat it as seriously as we should. We just assume that it's always going to come out of our tap. We never think about how clean it is. We don't try, a lot of people say, oh, we shouldn't never drink tap water. So they go to drinking bottled water. And the thing that surprises me is that you go to the store and you look at the shelves of drinks, bottled water is more expensive than the other drinks that I thought was made with water, but I guess they're not because it's cheaper than water, right? Bottled water would be like $2 to $4, but you can get a bottle of Gatorade for 99 cents. And I'm like, what is Gatorade made of if not water? And
Yeah.
that the water costs 3 to 4 times as much as a bottle of Gatorade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there is water, right? There's water inside coffee and juice and things like that. But it is wild that water is more expensive, and it is expensive to be able to have the filters to filter through it, do the reverse osmosis system, because there's so many steps to clean the water thoroughly and pull every single thing out of it. And then even then you have to be cautious, because after you pull every single thing out of it, it's good and the bad. It's just empty water now, right? So you have to put the good minerals back into it. Um, Obviously, the bottled waters don't do that. But then there's a whole separate issue of the plastic being seeped into the water, and how long has it been bottled in hot and cold changing, temperatures. So it really blows my mind that it's more expensive. And even at, the grocery stores, you'll see you can get like a case, a 20 some pack of water, for the little personal ones that you can hold. And, it's less than $5. But if you go and you fill up a 5 gallon tank that you can have with you at home, and just keep refilling yours, it's less than that. It's like 50 cents a gallon. And, ending up being $2 and change. And it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that I could buy that much more, and it's actually pure with no BPA, BPA free and whatnot, and it's healthy for me. I think really all of this just boils down to awareness. Like, you just have to educate yourself. And then once you do, I think it's kind of always there, and you're like, instead of grabbing the bottled water, you're like, oh, maybe I should go and, do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We got an RO system installed in our house from our plumber, right? Not one of the Costco ones, but, like a legit plumbing commercial grade RO system at our house. And admittedly, my wife and my family and anyone comes over will be like, oh, this is the best water that I've never tasted. Like you just get it. And it's just pure and it's clean and there's no aftertaste, side taste, nothing. And you're right. I mean, it doesn't have any alkalines or minerals or things like that that would come out of spring water, which they've proven can be a lot better for you, right? So what's the differences there? How do you kind of explain the difference between just like a super clean, super pure RO water versus a spring water that comes with some natural minerals and things like that?
Right. So the spring water, or I'm sorry, the reverse osmosis water that you have, at least it's not of poor quality, right? Like you're not getting all of these different chemicals into your body, or even um, trace amounts of drugs or whatnot from whatever is in those pipes. And how long have those pipes underground been there for, too? You know,
Sure.
so
Well, they also lace it with fluoride and other things like that. And you get the water reports from your water district, right? I live in
yeah,
San Diego too. I'm like, oh, trace amounts of this, 1 part per million. I'm like, there's probably a few million parts in my one glass of water. So I'm getting 10 or 20 parts. That's a lot of parts of whatever
yeah.
arsenic that I don't want in my water.
Yeah, exactly. And so the reverse osmosis is amazing for that, but something that you can do to um, integrate the minerals into your water is get Himalayan salt. And literally, the smallest pinch, you put it in your water. You can't taste the salt; it doesn't taste brackish or anything like that, and you have your minerals right back into it. But
Really?
yet, every
It
single
could be
thing,
that easy. So hold on a second. So if I put salt in my water, if I just put some salt in my eggs in the morning, is that get the same purpose, or is it does it work differently?
I think it works differently. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But I do know, I mean, you do need salt, right? So with water, that can flush. If you drink too much water and you don't have enough salt intake, that can flush your system to the point like you do need that salt. But I believe that directly introducing it to the water, specifically Himalayan salt, because it carries many different minerals rather than just iodized or whatnot, it just absorbs from the water right there. Then you drink the water and it just kind of goes through your body, and it's able to be absorbed quicker
Yeah,
than
I'm a big fan of the Himalayan pink salts, the sea salts that you can get. And so
yeah.
you're saying take my grinder, sprinkle a little bit into my water, give it a chug.
The smallest amount, because even with my 5 gallon jug, I just put it over the top of it and I just do like a twist or two. And for the entire 5 gallons, that's fine. So you just the tiniest pinch.
So tell me about the water store that you want to start. Where are you planning to do this? What's going to be your goal? How do what's how's that working?
Yeah, so I'm looking to open it in Otay Mesa area, or East Lake area. I actually was going to open it last year around May, and I had everything set up for it. Of course, COVID happened, but I mean, it's an essential business, so I didn't decide to not open it because of that, because everyone needs water, whether there's a pandemic or not. But I was really curious to see what the market was going to be like. So I have a feeling it's not going to continue to hold itself up too much longer, because even the leases still are high. And so I have a feeling with all of these different bills going on and being approved, I think that things are going to get a little bit cheaper. So I'm waiting on that. But yeah, I mean, I have everything ready for it, and I have, everything ready, locked and loaded, just waiting to find that lease. So
Wow. So have you done a business like this before? Have you had a retail storefront? Have you sold water before like this? I'm just kind of curious in your background.
no, no, I haven't. I started thinking about this more. It was probably 3 years ago. And it was before I read the book. I was like, I would get my water from a local water store and I could taste the difference too. And I spoke with the lady, and she told me about the Himalayan salt before I did my own research into it. And I just thought how interesting, because you never know what's going, in your system. You just don't. And so you could wake up thinking that, you ate something wrong, or maybe just you caught a bug or something, but you went to go and do something healthy like drink water, and little did you know it did the opposite effect on you, because you have no idea where it came from or what is in it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then I'm just like a health nut, so I just dove deeper into the education part of water and how it reacts in your body. So
Yeah, it's an important lesson. People kind of overthink it, right? They never think twice about water and am I drinking enough? But it literally is one of the most important rules. And that's why I'm always telling my kids, like, remember to keep drinking water, please. We give you bottles and drink it.
yeah,
And you got to be peeing, like it's, if you haven't peed all day, it's not something to brag about.
yeah.
It means you haven't drank any water today.
Yeah, it's almost like you can have to bribe them with like if you drink more water, you'll have more energy to go play or something.
Right, right, right. Yeah. But, especially at the young kid age, they think of going to the bathroom as an annoyance because it takes away from their playing time.
Yeah,
And so like, oh, I got to stop playing and go to the bathroom and I'll be back in 30 seconds, but I'm annoyed. So that's kind of the
What a
kid,
new thing
the
to
little kid logic on that. Well, cool. Well, Katie, this is super interesting. So what were some of the key things that you learned from that book that really made you want to dive into it, or that you're rereading that you're like, aha, like, is there any, specific example that you can give of something that's in there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, our body is a complex system, and it tries to communicate with us that it is thirsty. It just if we're not knowledgeable on it, if we're not educated enough, we don't know how to pick up its hints or even have an idea that it is hinting at us. The majority of people are chronically dehydrated, and we don't realize it. We lose the sensation of being thirsty over time. That actually the same brain pathways that are used in the body's hunger signals are used for the thirsty signals as well. And so we kind of get that confused, and we're like, oh, well, we just need a snack, or we're just hungry. Maybe it's just, I'll just eat something out of the fridge, instead of like, wait, I'm actually really thirsty. I need something to drink. And those pathways, until you start to drink more water and you purposely reintegrate that into your goals or your daily habits, then your body will rebuild that feeling of thirst independently, but you can lose it. And that's why a lot of people just become dehydrated. They have no idea. um, and typically when they do have an idea that they're dehydrated, they've got a soda or a juice or something, and they go to gulp that, and of course that doesn't help the problem.
Yeah.
But they think they have because, oh, they just drink so much. It's almost like a tricking system. um,
So one of the more common problems that you hear of from people that don't drink enough water, and this is maybe the worst case scenario, is kidney stones, right? People are like, oh, you don't drink enough water, you're going to form kidney stones because there's not enough liquid in your body to dissolve it and pass it through. And then you hear those stories about having people having to pass a kidney stone, and it doesn't seem pleasant, right? So that's kind of that one warning. But you don't hear that story too often anymore. I remember hearing it a long time ago. Um, is that still happening? Are people, you think, chronically dehydrated? Is this like a regular thing that happens? And how does that tie in with the rest of our health benefits? Because we see blood pressure and diabetes and obesity and all these things that are happening in America, because we're pitching people to drink Coke and sodas and alcohols and things like that, as opposed to, yeah, drink water most of the time.
Right. I definitely think that it's still prevalent today. Like it hasn't gone away. I think that there are just so many different diseases that we don't attribute them to being dehydrated. Kidney stones is very like, okay, well, how can I get them to pass? So drink more water, like it'll help your body to kind of flush it through. Now that's kind of, that makes total sense. But if somebody is, having a heart disease problem or a spinal problem or, whatever the case may be, they're not thinking, oh, well, it's probably because I'm dehydrated. That's like the last thing that they're thinking. They're like, well, was there an injury? Like, did I, I don't know, did I fall or something? They're not thinking, I just need to drink more water. So, and that's what blows my mind is this book. This book is amazing. It literally just will give you an example of, say, like heart disease or a rheumatoid arthritis or something. And it will explain, not that it is like the cure, but it will explain how it can help it so much. So take rheumatoid arthritis, right? It's you have different things on your joints that are basically eroded, and you have all of this pain points, and it's inflamed and all of this. So you take water, and what is water? It can literally be in there to float and to give space to that. So anybody that has spinal problems or joint problems, it just kind of blows it back up. It gives it more space. And the other thing I do love about this doctor that wrote this book is he explains, like, of course, you have to look at things from a holistic point of view. You can't just like, okay, drink a glass of water and expect everything to be fine. It has kind of like all of your habits, like you mentioned obesity, right? You can't just drink water right alongside Coke and a hamburger from McDonald's and think, well, I drank water, I'm going to be good now. So you definitely just have to kind of make the best decisions that you can for yourself.
You think one of the reasons that just drinking water doesn't have the appeal at the mass market is because it's not profitable to pitch that when you're a health industry or a medical industry or a pharmaceutical industry, where you kind of subtly want people to be a little bit sick so you can sell them something to fix it, And the
Yeah,
solution isn't as easy as drink clean water.
absolutely. I definitely think it is. I mean, it's a known fact. Water comes from the earth. Only reason that this planet is inhabitable is because we have water. It's very, very known that water is life, and that's the only way that we're able to sustain ourselves. But I definitely, they can't make money out of it. They maybe can from the cities and, being able to kind of filter it and pump it back through our pumps or our pipes, but they can't, because if we're healthy, how are they going to make their money?
Yeah, it's really sad. Our I have a live-in au pair, which is a foreign babysitter that lives with us as kind of a cultural exchange, and she's from Brazil. And she was saying in Brazil, because they don't have clean water, most people drink Coke all the time.
Yeah.
And I hear this story in other parts of the world where they don't have access to clean water, and then Coke has partnerships with these countries and saying, "Oh, we'll deliver coolers and vending machines of Coke, and everyone will have Coke, and it'll be great, and you're going to be thirsty, and you're going to drink Coke, and everyone's going to
Yeah.
be happy." And
I
Coke,
I guess the only difference, I mean, they're definitely focused on the wrong thing, but versus what parasites and what the poor quality of water that they have could get them very sick as well, right? So I don't know which is the worst of the evil there, but Coke is not the answer. That's obvious.
it's really bad. You mentioned this doctor is from, probably Indian ethnicity, it seems like. And I remember years ago in India, there was a lot of protests in different areas, or maybe it was just one area, where Coke was putting in a new bottling plant to make more Coke. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they did it, all the farmers in the area were like, all our water's gone. They're pumping it from the ground. And now we don't have water for our crops. And Coke was like, well, that's business. It's very similar to that Goliath TV show that I was talking you about with the farmers in Central Valley, California, taking water out of the water table to water their crops at the peril of all of the people that live in the area not having access to the water because their wells have run dry, or the municipal system that used to have the water has been diverted all for farming use. So in this case, with Coke in India, they were taking all the groundwater to purify it and turn it into Coke ingredients, or water that's necessary for Coke. Regardless of what happened to the local population, which is a brutal thing to think. Hey, they were drinking water. Now their only option is to drink Coke, and they don't have water anymore. That's like a double whammy.
Right. And not only do they not have water anymore and only have Coke, but what about their crops? So they have less food and they have less cattle. And it's definitely a snowball effect that happens there. I hadn't heard of that. That's really awful.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. I mean, so just fighting for global access to water is a huge issue. I don't know, and I don't know what the numbers are currently, but I read it all the time about people in different places in the world, including America, that don't have access to clean drinking water, safe drinking water, and it's heartbreaking to hear that when that wasn't really a problem for so long. That, I mean, I guess since industrialization, having access to clean water is a problem. I remember visiting India with my parents, and they live in a part where it's like very tropical and lush and green trees and forests and rivers. And I was like, oh, it's like an ecological paradise. How come
Right.
I don't see anyone fishing in these rivers? Not in boats, not on the side. And my dad's like, oh, that's long gone. There's so many pesticides and chemicals from the farming that there's no fish in the water anymore.
Wow.
And that was the saddest thing I'd heard. I was like, if the fish can't live there, you can't drink it.
Right. Exactly.
So now what? Like
That's all now. Definitely.
you have to get plumbed water to your house, even though you're surrounded by rivers or water, and you can't
Right.
use it because you've polluted it too much. And it just shows to how we've chosen to not respect our planet properly and the consequences that causes when you're looking at short-term gains for a factory or for chemicals or for all these kind of things, and it's going to be
Right.
hard to reverse that.
It really is. And I think it goes back to many, many years ago, not really realizing, the effects that you would have on it. So people would use the restroom by the river and maybe dump trash too close to it and whatnot, and didn't realize what it was doing to the river, to the animals downstream and whatnot. And we're way past that. We've seen the effects that can do. And so even a company like that saying, oh, well, that's just, it comes with the territory, we're a business here, we're making you guys jobs, just suck it up, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
you know yeah, we're not going to all have jobs though when we don't have water and nobody can drink and eat proper. But I think too, that's an awareness too, is like making sure like, hey, yes, that would be great to have jobs here, but we are declining the business here. We're not going to do anything harmful next to the rivers and whatnot, because it is such a vital resource that we have.
Yeah, you need to have that synergy, and it's basically a human right, even though it's never been spoken as a human right, right? It is a human right to have access to clean water. And if you're paying part of your income as taxes to a government that's supposed to help you with that, you would think that they'd make that a priority of how do
One
we
of
make
the
sure that
first.
people have clean water,
Yeah.
because that's kind of the bedrock of everything else that you need to do in your life.
Yeah. And it's amazing just what it does in your system, even when you do have good quality water. And I mean, you could take everything that I could say about good quality water and how it can help you and reverse it to no water, or, having poor quality water. And you could see the effects, because it's one and the same. You go to drink, and you have all of these wonderful positive effects on it, and the lack thereof just shows how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, I'm glad we're talking about this, because the goal is that, we put the show out, we share it with our friends and family, they listen to it and say, okay, Katie and Henish are right. We need to drink some more water and pay attention to it. Let's get that gallon jug out, get out your Sharpie and start chugging. And make it part of your practice, because yeah, that is a big difference. One, having access to clean water is a big difference, because I knew when I would have like whatever crappy water that was just available, and I was always kind of discouraged from drinking, because I was like, I drink a little bit of like, bleh, like it's just kind of tastes bad. And you're like, I drank it. I'm not thirsty anymore, but I don't want any more of that water. But now when you get like, now that we've got like luxury RO super pure water at my house, I'm like, more water, please. I'll pop in I'm working outside. I'll pop in every 30 minutes and chug a glass or two, because I enjoy it, because it tastes so tasteless that it's so nice to drink, because it's just like just pure liquid. It's hydrating me, and I don't maybe have minerals or anything in it, but it feels so much better than tasting like crummy water that's got the taste of pipes in it, or fluoride, or whatever other things that the city thinks is acceptable in our water, or it's just a byproduct of traveling dozens of miles from wherever the regional treatment plant is to our tap, to our glass. um, and investing in that system, or going to your local water store to pick it up, is a big difference for your family, right?
It definitely is a big difference. I mean, even down to the studies that they've done with alkaline water. Um, the alkaline water cells are so much smaller than the reverse osmosis, the cells in that water, and so it can help hydration that much faster.
Oh, is that how that works? Alkaline shrinks the size of the cells
The cells within the alkaline water is
within
smaller,
the
so
water itself, the water molecules themselves.
exactly. So it can go within our molecular cells that much easier, that much less, that much more efficient as well. Um, I mean, regardless, you don't just have to drink alkaline water. There's also studies where if you only drink alkaline, it can kind of make you feel, a type of way, a little bit sick and whatnot. So, you know, I would say start off small in the alkaline, but regardless, it should be good quality water. Even if it's just reverse osmosis with the minerals put back in it, just drink that, you don't have to go all out and do, what might be the new age, thing to
I don't
do,
have to
but
buy smart water.
it doesn't make you smart.
It doesn't. Okay, just checking. Yeah, there's so many different gimmicks with water. You're like, it makes me feel like I'm not smart if I don't buy this, but I don't feel smart when I just spent $6 for a bottle of water.
I know, and that's just price gouging, really. I mean, I've done a study where you would literally get every single bottle of water, different brand or whatever in front of you, and we would test, the purity and alkalinity in them, and they're pretty much all tainted. I mean, they are in, plastic. For how long since they have been, bottled? Even alkaline water, it kind of fizzles on the alkalinity. Even the freshest of them do. So it's just a matter of really doing your research and knowing what brands just say it's spring water. I mean, there's nothing to verify that.
Hmm.
So
That's interesting. Okay, final question for you, unless you got anything else.
yeah.
What about like a soda stream sparkling water? Because I find at night I'm like, all right, let me make a bottle of sparkling water. And for me, it's cut, it's allowed me to like cut out or eliminate having like an evening beer or an evening drink. Cause I'm like,
Right.
okay, it's sparkling water, it's evening. And that's kind of like my nightcap as
Yeah.
opposed to putting empty calories for something else in.
So I haven't looked into sparkling water, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I can imagine that. I mean, if it's just carbonated and it's,
Right.
your simple, it's pure water and whatnot, I can't imagine that that would be bad for you, because carbonation itself, unless if you're, everything in moderation,
Sure.
but carbonation itself, I haven't really heard anything that is detrimental to your health. It's more so the sugar and the ingredients in these sodas, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I would say that, but definitely. I wish people would do, more research on all of the side effects, that you have no idea that you're just dehydrated, and really test it for themselves on how their body reacts, drinking more water.
Well, Katie, it's been awesome having you on. Let me ask you, do you want people to try to track you, follow you, see what you're up to? Is there a good way for people to reach you?
Ah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, I have an Instagram. You're more than welcome to follow that. I have one for Absorb, my water business. Let me put that up here. It's at Absorb Your Health.
That's
And
the IG handle.
yep, that's the IG handle. Yeah. I took my Facebook down for a little while, so that's what I have on there. But
Understand. Well, Katie, appreciate coming on the show and sharing about water, a super important topic. People overthink all the time or don't think about enough all the time. So thank you for bringing some awareness to this important topic. And thanks for joining me on the show.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Have a
That was
good day.
another that was another great episode of I've Got a Theory. Catch you on the next show.